Hello everyone. I hope that you are having a nice morning and that we are going to produce some nice ideas together with this session. Welcome to our webinar focused on building energy communities. I think that we can already start since it's some people are already joining. So, as I was saying, welcome everyone. I'm Stefania Mascolo from Eurocities, and I'm happy to be your co-moderator today with Omar Safkat, project coordinator of Atelier project. So today our session is being co-organized by 4 European funded projects, all working towards climate neutrality, supporting cities in designing and implementing positive energy districts. And today we bring together 4 of our cities to share with you lessons learned and but also challenges and specific advice on how to build energy communities and what elements are key to replicate successfully all across Europe. So our 4 projects, as said, are Atelier, Ascent, NEUTRALPATH, and POCITYF. And all together, we bring together almost 30 cities across Europe. So we're happy to have today here 4 speakers from 4 cities. And so thank you so much for our speakers for being here. And before we start, just saying that we are going to have a first introduction on the relevance of the topic on energy communities. We know it's a very popular topic right now, and it is expected to deliver an important contribution to accelerate the energy transition. So we are first having a introduction from Omar, who will guide us through the narrative of this webinar, and then we will hear more from the real case scenarios from our speakers and our cities. Before I leave the floor to Omar, just one quick detail. So as we have a busy agenda, as you see, 4 speakers, 4 panelists, and then of course we are going to have a Q&A section for us to address all of your questions and your doubts for our speakers. So while our speakers present, please do write in the chat any question that you might have, and we will come back to them at the end of the session. So thank you so much, and I leave the floor to Omar.
Thank you so much, Stefania. Welcome, everyone. I will start with a brief introduction of myself. My name is Omar Shafkat. I'm involved with ATELIER project. In fact, I'm not the project coordinator. I'm responsible for the collaborations with the wider PED community. So today we're going to talk about building energy communities and what are the key components for successful replication. We have 4 very distinct and interesting projects and we are going to present the flavor of the energy communities and how we are approaching it from that perspective. What's really interesting is also these projects are very complementary in terms of nature. So we all tackle different aspects while trying to achieve PEDs or PCEDs. For those unfamiliar, PEDs are positive energy districts and PCEDs is positive clean energy districts. We're going to try to cover sort of give you a brief overview of what the projects are about, but also try to address different aspects of energy communities as well as our experiences. So from Ascend side, there we'll talk a little bit about investments and the business models and what we are seeing on that side. And from Atelier, we will discuss a little bit on the regulatory challenges as well as some of the issues that we're facing while implementing our energy communities. Dresden has a very interesting take on energy communities, and Min will present that. And finally, Humberto will talk about the success factors for replication as well as what they've been doing in regards to the topic. So with that, without any further ado, I would like to invite Wojciech Belch to talk about what they're doing in Ascend.
Yeah, hello. Nice to meet you. Nice to have you here. Thanks for inviting me. Well, Ascent project is a project which is focused on positive clean energy districts. We have like two lighthouse cities, which are Lyon in France and Munich in Germany. And then we have like six multiplying cities, which are Porto, Charleroi, Prague, Stockholm, Budapest, and Alba Iulia. I'm representing Czech Technical University, and we are a technological partner for the demo or the replication site in Prague. Mm, yeah, so the general goal of the project is to make cities healthier, smarter, more sustainable, and more inclusive. And we try to do it by building these positive cliff energy districts. There are some various definitions of what it should mean, but actually, yeah, the Prague replication site is not really advanced at the time. We are just in the phase of co-creation of the district concept. That's going to be a greenfield district. So there is a city developer who runs the project. Now I think there is a tender for the provider, but still we work on the concept of the district. Yeah. So I don't know if it's enough for you. Actually, there will be a time for questions. So,
Wojciech, if you could please share your slides as well.
okay. So should I go through my whole presentation or just introduce the project?
No, please go ahead with the presentation.
Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes.
Thanks. So yeah, well, that's actually what I've already said. Yeah, these are some figures about the project, which is gonna last until 2028. The coordinator is Lyon. As said before, 8 demonstration areas and 39 partners all over Europe. So this is the structure of our consortium, just to make you aware of what a complex mosaic of partners is working on the project, which can be seen as advantage, but of course it's really demanding to coordinate some actions. Yeah, and then we go to this energy community part, which is foreseen to be a part of this positive clean energy district in Prague. But what I present here is not really the experience of the demonstration site in Prague, which is being in progress, but this is a presentation of the way of thinking that we have at Czech Technical University to support founding the community in the new district in Prague. So me as an economist focus on economic aspects of energy communities, which is very hot issue here in the Czech Republic because for most of the stakeholders, this economic motivation is really crucial in the Czech Republic. And this is because of two things. The first one is high investment expenditures. So for many households in the Czech Republic, investing in photovoltaics with battery is a question of a very significant amount of money in the household budgets. So we really have to tackle this question in a very trustworthy way, speaking with people. So first of all, we try to convince people to look up for some subsidy schemes that can cut your investment costs. This is something that we have all over Europe, but actually in the Czech Republic there is quite a big skepticity about the subsidies. So we still need to somehow motivate people to reach out for these funds. And then if we have some part of the investment covered by the subsidies, we also have to educate people about possible funding mix because people in Czech Republic are also debt averse. They don't like to take credits. They don't want to have their housing in mortgages and so on. So they basically operate in the cash world, which makes many investments impossible. We also try to do some matchmaking because between public authorities and private investors, which means tough negotiations because the public budget and the public institution have another interest. They are not as oriented on the capital cost. They are not as oriented so much for the return periods and so on. And the private investors see still such things in Czechia as just a pure business. They are not really environmentally oriented. Then there is a kind of clash between return and cash flow. It really depends on people who we are talking about and who we are talking with. For younger people who are like economically in good status and so on, the argumentation of return is valid. You can motivate people with return period of like 10, 12 years. But in case of households that are not that wealthy, that are in some cases elderly people, they are not motivated by the return period. They stick to their current cash flow, which can be affected by an investment. Yeah. Then, this is double the same, but there are these planning perspectives. Actually, this is the case of the various stakeholders. As said before, the institutional municipal planning perspectives are very long, like 25 to 30 years. When it comes to younger households, it's also like about 20 years. But when it comes to older households, it's much, much shorter. So you have to find compromise between them. Yeah. So now I have some figures that we got from some project when we tried to design four to five versions of communities. So as you can see here, I think the case A is the most interesting one because it shows the difference between investment in case of a system with battery and without battery, because battery is still the market game changer because it makes the investment really expensive. And then we have the investments per household. In case A, we have a house of 12 dwellings. So you see that the investment per household is quite big. This 80,000 Czech crowns is something about two average monthly salaries in Czechia. But then there are some houses with 50 to 60 flats, and then you can see that the investment per household is fully affordable because it's about half of the monthly average salary. Yeah, and then we have some analysis tackling this issue of funding mix and return period. If you see the last chart, you can see the example of energy community that could be funded fully by foreign funds, 50% subsidy, 50% debt, which have really strong impact into cash flow because the households in the community are not subject to any reduction of their current cash flow. But actually, all in all, it makes the investment not as profitable as while financed by own sources. On the other hand, if it comes to energy communities where enterprises are involved, which is also possible, as we most probably all know, then this foreign funding source is always something which is cheaper for the company than the equity invested. And here we have like when the curves cross zero, this is the return period of the investment, which makes that the cash flow the cumulative cash flow after executing the investment gets higher than the cash flow without the investment. So yeah, this is just answer to the question after how many years I will spend less money on my energy having or being in the community than buying the electricity from the grid. So as you can see, there are like, this is the B example, and there are like two types of dwellings in this house. So you can see it slightly differs between the bigger and the smaller flat, but actually in each case, the return period is about maximally like 14 years, which is quite okay for households. It's not okay for enterprise. Yeah. So that was about the investment, and now there is another factor that refrain people from building communities in Czechia, and this is the low energy price from the grid. So it is quite complicated for people to design the community in such a way that the operation of the community is really significantly cheaper than buying energy from the grid. So yeah, to make sure that your community is designed in a proper way, you have to put quite much attention to consumption and load match, because if you don't use the energy that you produce in the community locally, most probably the operation will not be profitable. So you have to bring into the community the proper mix of users so that this, during day peaks and so on are consumed by someone, for example, by school or by laundry or players like this. Yeah, what is really underestimated in the offers that commercial companies bring to people in Czechia are operational costs. The companies offer installation with no operational costs, which is not true, actually. And in Czechia right now, you have to count that the yearly operational cost for 1 kilowatt peak yearly with the battery is like 12 to 15 euros. So you have to take it into consideration. When then this is my favorite point. It's like, what should we use while evaluating the rentability of energy community operation? So many people around Europe used LCOE, which is leverage cost of energy, but I use the very traditional measurement, which is net present value of cumulative energy expenditures. It's because I'm fully convinced that you can use LCOE just comparing two similar installation functioning in various conditions. So theoretically, if there was a community in Czechia and exactly the same community in Spain, you can compare where this design performs better, because there is much more sun in Spain than in Czechia, and then you can see, okay, this design of this community is more appropriate from Spain, it performs better there. But if you have like two various designs to compare in the same conditions, so you have a house in Czechia and you want to compare if the design A is better or the design 2, you have to use these cumulative expenditures to make an informed decision. And then there is small point about ancillary services, which is not developed so much in Czechia. Still, we are waiting for the legal act that will enable people to take part in the flexibility market. Now it's not happening, but actually in the future it could be quite a big factor while calculating the rentability of the energy community. And then there are additional services. It's about the broader context like electromobility, charging your e-cars and so on, which can make your community more profitable. Yeah.
One minute, please.
Okay, so just few pictures about showing you the tools that we use. We do some like dynamic optimization models in mathematical software, which generates like 3D charts and so on, which is quite a nice thing to show people. And then I think this is the last chart, which I didn't find anymore in editable version, so it's in Czech, but these are these examples that we were analyzing. And then there is this correlation between return period, which is the shorter the return period, the higher capex, so capital expenditures for the community. So if you want to get your money back faster, you have to invest more in Czechia. So just lessons that we've taken from these 5 examples is that the really design of the community matters. You have to find the perfect load consumption match. So the actors included in the community should be various. So yeah, the lesson is be open for various players. In Czechia, still investment costs are a big barrier, but the design helps to bear it because you can split the investment between various actors. So being together makes the potential stronger. Funding mix should suit communities' needs, which may vary. This is about this higher capex for shorter return period or maybe longer return period. For higher capex, you just have to stay creative while designing the funding scheme and to stick to people's needs. The market of finance instruments supporting such things is growing bigger and bigger. Still, it's underdeveloped in Czechia. But the case is that if there's going to be many communities, you have to push banks to provide you the proper instruments. The communities are client on the market, and the client is always right. So we should to push the financial sector. Yeah, and the optimal running of the energy community, smart management, and so on can really improve its economic performance. Sorry for many typos in the presentation. And yeah, this is just my bio. You can find it online too. And thanks. I'm all for you for your questions. Hopefully, I'm just in the time.
Thank you so much, Wojciech. A very interesting presentation. I think we learned a lot in terms of the various economic aspects as well as some very interesting lessons learned. On that note, we'll continue. We'll do the questions at the end. We move to Atelier and Eva Winters. Eva, if you could please share your screen.
Yeah, I will share my screen if I do it right this time. Just a second.
Eva has been involved with Atelier since almost the very beginning and instrumental in the design of our energy community.
Okay, just a second. If I can share it in such a way. No, there you go. Share. And then I need to make it into this modus. There. You see it correctly now?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
So, thank you, Omar, for the introduction. My name is Eva Winters. I work for TNO, which is the Netherlands Organization for Scientific Applied Science. It's always a mouthful. I always need to write it down to pronounce it correctly. I will tell you something about the Atelier project and more specifically about the energy community that we have in the Atelier project. So I will first start shortly with the Atelier project, done something about the positive energy district that we have in Amsterdam, and then I will continue with Republica, our energy community, and then I will point out one of the major issues that we had, which was around congestion in the positive energy district, and I will hopefully round up within time with some lessons learned. So this is our project. We've already started in 2019, so we've been running a bit longer than Ascend. And that means that we're coming towards the end of the project and already have a lot of lessons learned that we could share. But however, we asked for a 1.5-year extension to 2026 because we need some more time for the monitoring. So most of the activities are done, but we still need to monitor, and we really want also to monitor because we calculated a lot upfront, and now we want to know if that was right and what we learned and what we can learn from those data that comes out from the POCITYF energy districts, both in Bilbao and Amsterdam. So hopefully in 1.5 years, we have a lot of more lessons to learn, but we will start with the ones that we can share now. Let's focus on the Amsterdam POCITYF Energy District. This is an overview of the POCITYF energy districts that we have. You see some pictures on the left. I don't know if you can see my arrow here. It's an artist's impression of the Republica development. That is one of the major things within our project. Then down here you see some houseboats. You see them also in the map. They're also part of it, which is floating houses, which are also energy positive. And we have here some artist hub. So we have a couple of hubs, and you see the arrows that connect them is basically this digital layer that connects all these developments. And the aim is to share as much of the energy produced in the area and also consume that by the different developments. But we will focus today on Republica, which is the major development within Atelier. It's in the Buikstoterham, and it is a mixed-use development. It consists of 6 buildings. You see the artist impression from the architect Mark Koeder here on the left. And the long building here, I hope you can see it here, is a hotel with a swimming pool on top. I've actually seen it a couple of weeks ago. It's quite nice. And here you have some areas where businesses can use spaces, and also behind here there's a building for businesses. And in the middle there are 2 buildings for that are homeowner apartments. And then behind those buildings here you see a black box, so to say, and that is middle income rental housing, which is quite expensive in Amsterdam, that can be rented. So this is Republica, and what the artist impression doesn't show is what's underneath it, and that is especially interesting for the POCITYF energy district. There's a large garage underneath where we also have EVs that can be connected, and there's lots of the technical installations are in the basement. So let's look at this development. I always start to say that it's a unique development, and of course everyone says that about the project they are involved in, but this is actually a really unique development in the Netherlands because the development makes use of what we call a regulatory sandbox, which means that during a certain period in the Netherlands from 2015 to 2018, there was this option to apply for a regulatory sandbox, and then you get derogations from electricity, from the electricity law. And one of the major things within this sandbox is that you can make your own privately owned grid, and you can also operate that grid. So they made their own private electricity grid. So all the connected customers that are in this, that are living or working in this development, they are connected to this private grid, and the private grid only has one large connection to the public grid. And this is quite this is quite unique because in the Netherlands, all connected customers are obliged to connect to the public grid. You're not allowed to make your own grid, so to say. There are some exceptions for like closed distribution systems, but they're only for quite heavy industry. So all connected customers are connected to the public grid in the Netherlands. Another thing that came with this regulatory sandbox is that you needed to start a community that could be within the legal structure of the cooperative, or if from a homeowners association. And in Republica, we chose for the cooperation, so it is a cooperation. And so they organized all under this cooperative. And another thing is that the cooperative is officially the supplier of the connected customers that are connected to this private grid. So these are all quite exceptional things in the Netherlands that normally are not possible this way. And they have an energy management system that is really focused on this area. They also make a forecast for that area, and they steer the flexible assets that are connected to the grid. So then something about the assets. Well, you can see them here, but what I want to point out here is that Republica has an electricity system, but in addition to that, it also is connected to the district heating system. This was mandatory because the area falls within a concession of the district heating company, so they needed to have that connection. And they have their own heating system, and to that own heating system, they also have a common heat pump connected. So they can use the heat pump, but they can also use the district heating. And this became later on a project actually quite valuable. In the beginning, we thought, oh no, we also have to connect to this district heating company, which doesn't provide us with the most clean heat. It's waste incineration. But later on, it was actually a blessing in disguise, because we needed that connection to make the project run. So let's go to the next slide, otherwise I won't make it in time. Then something about the governance structure. So this is a development that is in a totally new area. So one of the challenges was that we wanted to create this smart grid, so to say, with all these assets connected, and we needed to have that cooperative where all the people would be part of, but no one was living there yet. So we needed to design it from scratch. And that was one of the challenges. And we really thought about how do we give both the residents, the businesses, and also the tenants votes within that cooperative. And if we would have done it on a square meter basis, then the businesses would really have outnumbered the residents. So the decision was made by the developer that designed this to split it into 50-50%, so that to keep that balance, so that also the residents would have enough to say. And they also thought we want the tenants, so if someone lets out their apartment, we also want the tenants to be able to have a say. So also the tenants get a vote within the community. So that's for the governance structure. We have quite a nice small deliverable on this topic. So if you're interested, we can share that with you if you're interested in the governance structure. Then let's say something about the activities that we organize or we are engaged in within the Republica. So I already mentioned that Republica is the supplier of the connected customers, but we also have these flexible assets that we can steer, and also these flexible assets are not only used to, for example, steer towards that you use as much as possible your own produced electricity, but they can also be used to, for example, actively sell flexibility on the market. So we do that with this 1 megawatt battery that is also in place, that is used on imbalance, but also for FCR and other markets, and maybe in the future it will also play a role in congestion management. Well, you can already hear it that this is all quite complex. So they are complex activities, especially if you need to go to that market and really sell and buy electricity or trade flexibility. These are quite complicated activities. So what we found out in our community is that it sounds nice that they can do it all themselves, but they need a lot of support from professional market parties. So, for example, the supply, we use Green Choice as a supplier because they have that market access. And there is Spectral, which plays an incredibly large role in this development by designing the grid, but also the operation of the grid and the steering of the assets. And they make the forecast and they make the nomination and do that with green choice and make sure that they have a good buy and sell strategy. So we saw in this development that these types of energy communities cannot really do without help from professional parties. It's too advanced to get all those access and all those authorizations and so on. So I hope I have some time left, Omar, to say something about one of the major challenges that we had in our project. So when the development was built, at a certain point, we had to, of course, apply for a connection to this public grid from the DSO. And we requested 2 megawatt connection. And then it stayed silent for a while. And then they came back to us and said, I'm sorry, we don't have it because the area is congested. I'm not sure if everyone knows what that means, but it means basically we don't have the transport capacity that you need to feed in and take out from the grid what you needed. So we don't have that. We only have 1.7 megawatt available during certain times, but we have during the day from 7 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock in the evening during the winter, where actually most of our demand is in the Netherlands, because we have cold winters and we mostly use it for heating our houses. We only have 536 for you. So 1/4 of what we requested originally. So that was quite a shock, because then the question was, can we actually can we supply all the customers? Can we give what they need within these limits? Well, the next slide, I will go into that, but I wanted to just first reflect shortly on the contract, because at the time when we got this offer, these types of contracts were not regular. So this was only 2 years ago, and a lot of things have changed in the Netherlands over the 2 years, and that is really because the whole of the Netherlands is now congested. So everyone is running into these issues. There are some spots that are still yellow on the map, but most of them they're orange to red. And when you request transport capacity for a large connection like we do here, and we have this one large connection, and they don't have it for you, you most of the time been put on a waiting list. And you need to wait until they have it available. And that can take up to 5 years or even more. So that we got this was quite kind of blocks in which we can use, some with more limitations, some with less limitations. And these types of contracts were not available at that time, but we got them anyways. And nowadays there are contracts like that available on the market, because within these 2 years, lots of new contracts were developed. And because
1 minute, Eva.
Oh, 1 minute. Okay, then I'm going to run to the next slide. But maybe one last comment on this slide is that one of the things that we noticed that if we asked 2 megawatt for a whole group of connected customers, if all those people would have asked it individually because they were individually connected to the public grid, then they would have needed much more. That's one thing. And the second thing is, then probably only the households would have gotten what they needed, and the large connected customers would have been put on a waiting list, and they would not been able to use that building for the time that the area was congested. So here's our blessing in disguise. Due to that we have one connection, we could actually say we made a nice digital twin together with TNO and Spectral. We made a digital twin. We calculated, can we do it within these limits? And we found out, yes, we can do it, because we can use the energy efficiency in the building that is helping. We have also the district heating connection that also was great for this purpose, because when we see that we go over that limit, we can use district heating instead of electricity that we used for the heat pump. And so we could actually stay within the limits of the contract. So shortly, Omar, the lessons learned. So by treating them as a group, we saw that they can share the available transport capacity efficiently. And if we would not have had that regulatory sandbox, then not all connections would have been facilitated at once. Well, also here again, the combination of district heating and electricity actually makes that you're much more flexible, because in the peak hours you can change to this district heating solution. And one of the things I think is really great from the project, that this shows that really working together as a group, you can more efficiently use the network. And we see that this is also copied into real life. So now a group transport agreement is being developed by our regulator and by the sector to see if we can also facilitate this over the public grid, so that you don't need that regulatory sandbox anymore. Here are some general recommendations, but I might need to skip those ones. But I think, yeah, Omar, this is probably it. And if there's questions, here are my contacts. So please feel free to contact, and maybe we can discuss some of these things later on in the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eva. We're almost on time, which is wonderful. And next up, we have a NEUTRALPATH, and a NEUTRALPATH is also working with PCEDs. We have Min Wu, who will inform us about the various initiatives in the city of Dresden. Min, please. Min, are you still with us?
I'm still with you. I'm listening to you.
Perfect.
And let's see how.
I think we lost Min at a very critical time. Perhaps. Oh yeah, there we go.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have 3 screens, and I'm now looking to choose the right one. So because I can't go to full mode, otherwise the screen, the Zoom screen will be skipped. So let's do it that way. So the project I'm coordinating here in Dresden is NEUTRALPATH. And I skip all the part about the background of it, like the city mission by the EU, etc. So let's get into what it's all about. So you can see here the map of Dresden. And we have 2 pilot sites here. And because we think that Dresden is a diverse geography with 2 basically 2 different aspects we have to consider. One, a large area of the city is connected to district heating heat supply network, and the other is not. So as you can see here at the rim of the city, in the peri-urban area, we don't have district heating, so the both sides here, one side is this is connected to district heating, which is site A, we call it, and the other is site B, which is not connected to district heating. You can see they are in the vicinity of each other, more or less, yeah, but but this side is connected to district heating, and this side is not. So currently, we think that about 2/3 of the city is not connected to the to district heating network, and if we invest a lot of money, we can connect more or less 50% of the city area. So the 2 projects are mirroring the situation in Dresden, and that's why it's interesting to have 2 different pilot sites. I can show you. This is site A, and you can see here it is a large building block from the 70s, and basically we are intervening here in this area. So this is site A, and site A is connected to a secondary heat district heating network, and it is more or less the last ring of it. So we can separate all what we want to do and research on. We can have as isolated perspective on this area. So even if it's connected to the district heating network, behind it there's nothing. So this means this is the last ring, and we can do whatever we want without impacting the general heat supply network. You can see here maybe that this building, which is owned by Vonovia, it is a large German real estate administration company. They own quite a lot of such kind of living flats in Dresden, because in the 90s, a lot of those were municipal residential housing objects, and they have been sold to Vonovia. So it's interesting to work with them. And included in this project is also Sachsen Energie, which is the local utility provider. So any kind of connection to power and to heat has to go through Sachsen Energie. So it was great to have them in our project consortia. And of course, they are Sachsen Energie is in a holding, and this holding is also co-owned by the city of Dresden. So in fact, the city of Dresden is majority holder of this of the holding in which Sachsen Energie is a part of. And you can see here there is solar panels, PV panels installed on the roof, and in the cellars, in the basement, there are house stations. So these house stations are like the connection points between the heat supply of the buildings and the external heat supply grid from the city. And in this regard, you can see here, this is the schematic plan of, in case, Omar, you are wondering that you don't have the same presentation. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you just fine.
Okay, you were frozen, so I don't know what happened. And I sent you a presentation before, but now after the first presentations, I changed it a lot. So you can see more about the interventions here. So this is the building block, and we have 7 different house stations here installed, to be installed. Some are already installed, that will make it possible for us to monitor how the heat supply is working there. And before that, there were old equipment from the 70s, so you don't have data exchange. And now we can monitor more or less on a minute basis how the heat supply is being provided here and how is the demand. So what we want to do is to harmonize demand with supply. So one point of optimization we can achieve here, and then increase the efficiency of the system. On the other hand, we want to also connect or use the solar power from the roofs for the operation of the heat supply house stations. So that means we are connecting 2 different sectors, power and heat, in this regard. I don't want to go into details because we don't have the time for that. But basically, what we want to do is we want to have a lower grid temperature for the heat supply network, and also prepare the heat supply network to integrate more renewable energy, because as you know, renewables are not capable of working with high temperatures. This is only possible for gas and coal. So therefore, we have to do something to have a lower temperature level in the general heat supply network in order to integrate renewables in the future more. And we are also having heat pumps, etc. on site A, that also supports the carbon reduction of on site A. Here you can see site B. As you can see, it is a completely different setup. So we have like single and multi-store, multi-family houses here. They are detached, and it's more in the countryside. So that's why they cannot be connected to the heat supply network. And you can see here, these are the buildings of concern that we want to retrofit and to renovate by using a technology that increases the isolation of the building facade. So this system is also like comparable to a ground heat system. That means that between the wall and the isolation facade, there are also water capillaries where you can store heat. And we want to do that by, we are going to use geothermal energy here, as well as solar energy. So all the roofs you can see here will be full with solar energy as much as they need, because we want to go into the real demand of the house. So only install what the house needs. So the house is really independent from the outside grid. And each house shall get a a geothermal system that is more into a deep geothermal system, and also a heat pump to provide them with the energy they need. At the start, we wanted to have a common local heat network installed here. But then, after calculating all the costs and the public funding that is available for such a project, we detached from this idea. So maybe I can show you also here the full picture of that area. This is maybe comparable to other areas in other cities that don't have district heating networks. So we have two cases that we could disseminate. Interestingly, the most relevant stuff for Site A was not the technical system, but how to optimize the cost of it. And here you can see this is the layout of the heat supply system. Here you can see the layout of the photovoltaic system. So the heat pump is included somewhere here. And you can see all the what we have done so far for Site B, also to prepare for the public funding application, is to have an investment cost overview. What kind of capital do we need? You can see here public funding, own capital, external capital, and capital cost. And you can see here what are the operational costs of it. And then in the end, you can see what are the, what are the unit prices for the heat supply. So all this knowledge we want to integrate into what is ongoing the municipal heat supply plan. So the people working here, they are also in the city, and they're located in the climate protection staff. And so this is the general framework, how to develop the heat supply plan for the whole area of Dresden. And the question is how to use NEUTRALPATH to support it. Also with regard to developing towards a climate neutral path. And what I can see here, so I tried to connect the heat supply plan with the work packages that we are going to do or have been done in Dresden, and that we want also, of course, transfer to the colleagues. So this is what is going on within the municipality. As what I call local dynamics, there's also a citizen initiative, and it is not even an organization, but I want to involve them more into our project. So they have set up a local referendum in, I think, 2013 or so, and they have triggered the city council to increase the pace of going climate neutral. So from, I think, from 2050 to 2040 or so it was. And so they are connected to the local networks and local initiatives here in Dresden that wants to have a climate neutral urban development, especially with regard to energy. There's also a Renewable Energy Association of Saxony, and only currently they have set up a working group that's called Citizen Energy, or what we rather call like energy cooperatives, because this is also the legal entity that is more feasible to realize this kind of model here in Germany in general. And I've been there at one of their meetings, and we want to go further and see how NeutralPath can connect with them. Also, there is a company that it is already a cooperative, and they call themselves EG cooperatives, and they also since 20 years, no, 10 years or so, they were also initiative, and now they are working full time to support other initiatives to create and to found energy cooperatives here in Saxony in general. And in Dresden, they are also already in contact with the climate protection staff. So in general, what I think that Dresden is quite committed. So we are since 2017 in a continuous loop where we started with the Match Up project. It was about the EU Smart City initiative. It was finished in last year. NeutralPath was applied it's ongoing, and we will hopefully finish in 2027. And then also a project on mobilities, climate neutral mobility concept for an area inside in the middle of Dresden, but which is not so quite accessible. So it's also quite interesting. And only recently, two projects were also acquired from the funded by the city. EU city mission, which is UCAN. So it's about knowledge transfer to a Ukrainian partnership city, and another project which is just kicked off only recently. It's about setting up like a municipal energy consultant for the citizenship, and for local initiatives, also for family house owners that are interested to change the energy system. So I think this is the overview I wanted to give you, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Min. Perfectly on time. And we got to know about some very interesting details about the local initiatives you have. We'll come back to you with a few questions on that at the end. With that, a reminder, if you do have questions, please do post them in the chat, and we'll take them up after our final presentation, which is coming up now. Next up, we have POCITYF, which is working with historical city centers and preparing them for PEDs. And today we have Humberto with us, who will tell us about what they're doing. Humberto, please.
Thank you, Omar. Thank you for the invitation. Let me share the screen so you can see. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is Humberto Queiroz. Thank you for having me, for the invitation. And I'm here today to talk a little bit about part of this huge project that we are managing, the POCITYF project. Before we start, some generalities. As Omar mentioned, POCITYF is a European-funded project focused on creating positive energy blocks in cities that have some protection enabled. For instance, in Évora, we have a heritage area in the city center, and also in Alkmaar and the other cities, which imposes another layer of challenge while implementing our solutions, which is not related exclusively for energy. We have a holistic approach trying to put the citizen in the middle of the process, installing generation assets, managing energy, and also dealing with district heating, waste. We have some innovative solutions related with waste management. And the two lighthouse cities of this project is Évora in Portugal and Alkmaar in the Netherlands. And we also have these other cities, the fellow cities, Granada, Rivdovre, Celje, Upjest, Bari, and Ioannina, which we will replicate part of the solutions that we are developing in the lighthouse cities. In Évora, as you can see in these slides, we have three districts. The first one, which calls PEB number 1, is the city center, which have these challenges added because it's a protected area. We have the industrial area, which doesn't have these protections, but we have another challenges. And as you can see here in the PEB number 2 that we call Valverde, is a small village near Évora, in which I will discuss, explain to you what we are doing over there. So in this village, as you can see in this picture, we are forming a renewable energy community formed by the houses that are highlighted on the image. The generalities of this energy community: we have 10 members initially, all of them with 1.5 kilowatt PV system installed in their houses. They also have batteries, but in this stage, we are not using the batteries as asset in the energy community. Maybe in the future after the project. And we also, we will have the opportunity in the future to construct a community solar farm outside of the village, which will generate electricity for partially for the members of this community. On the scope of the POCITYF project, the operation and management of this community is our responsibility as a consortium. In the future, after the project ends in 2 years, we will pass the torch to them by educating them how to manage and how to operate and how to manage the energy community, and they will manage the community by themselves. But today, since we are under the scope of the project, EDP is the manager, and in reality, I am the manager of this community, and I'm responsible for every interaction between the community and the legal entities. And in this community, we also create a peer-to-peer trading market, in which we will compare the performance of these two strategies. Our role as manager in this community is to support the installation of the remaining assets that I mentioned. We will provide a platform for them, for the manager to manage the day-to-day of this energy community, relating mostly with sharing the energy and the connection between from and to the DSO by receiving and sending data to them regarding the shared energy among the members. We will teach the members how to have a behavior that can increase the benefits of the community, and we are helping them in this process of forming the community, all the bureaucracy, the interaction with the portal that we need to upload the information for the granting of the community. We will help them we are helping them creating the regulation of the communities as stated in the Portuguese legislation. And after the ending of the process, we will help them to choose if they want an external entity to act as manager of the community, or if they chose, we will pass the torch for one of the members to be the manager of the community. And we will update the regulation if needed, because the Portuguese regulation is changing almost every year, and we must comply with that. This slide that I have here is an engagement slide that I show them. I create 3 33 synthetic residences similar to what they have in Valverde and simulate an energy community over a year. And you can see in the graphs, the red line is the original consumption, cost of consumption without any measures. If each member proceeds to individual self-consumption, they will have a reduction on the cost, the black line. But if they collective act as a community, they can achieve higher decrease on the cost, and it's the dashed line that I'm showing. They are really interested in that slide, and that's the main reason that's the community will see the light of the day in the future. In parallel, last year, we, EDP and Uninova Research Center, that also part of the project, we wrote a proposal for a pilot project that was established by the Portuguese regulation entity, in which we will test these dynamic sharing coefficient, the dynamic sharing strategies, which in a nutshell is calculate the percentage of energy to each member every 15 minutes, dealing with the instant behavior of their consumption and the instant level of generation. So as you can see in this equation, we can define the parameter A as consumption for each member, parameter B as generation, parameter C as everything that we want. We can cope with this strategy with energy poverty. If some member is suffering from energy poverty, we can design this equation to give a higher share of energy to those members that are suffering from that, and they will have a greater reduction on their bills at the end of the month. And we will also compare this strategy with this peer-to-peer that we call competitive sharing, with this dynamic sharing that we call cooperative sharing. And we will compare the behavior and the performance of the community in this sense. Lastly, we will give to them two platforms. One is for the members, this one that I'm showing there. In this platform, they will bid the energy that they have in surplus, or buy or bid for buying or bid for selling if they have surplus or have needs. And at the end of the month, all the transactions will be translated in sharing package of energy that share among them according to the Portuguese regulation. And this will be made via this platform that we, EDP, is developing. This platform will translate these bids, buying and selling among members, to the rules of the Portuguese regulation. And we will inform the DSO. The DSO will proceed to this buying and selling, but for them will not be buying and selling, will be only sharing, because that's something that we cannot do today in Portugal. And after that, the DSO will proceed to the modifications on the consumption of the members, and it will be translated in the new consumption that will be sent to them as the electricity bills. And I didn't put a slide for that, but since my colleagues mentioned some lessons learned, the main lessons learned that we have here in Portugal is that we must be 2 steps in front of the entities that regulate that, because we had several problems. For instance, putting the equipment, regulating the equipment, we must send the information to the regulation entity, and they sent back to us several times because some details were missing. You don't have a smart meter, you must have a smart meter. The smart meter must be I forgot the specific word for that, but it was not, we don't see this energy meter. So you must send the documentation that this energy meter is installed that, and update your sheet to this new situation. And with that, we had several delays, but now we are in a good pace for the big. I'm thinking that in the beginning of the next year, we will have this community up and running, and 2 or 3 months after, we will start to see the benefits of this formation. And that's it. I think I have still some time that I will leave for you, Omar, and for the audience for questions. Thank you very
so
much.
much. Thank you so much, Humberto. Perfect timing. We can catch up with some panel discussion now. So if I could please ask Min and Wojciech to enable your cameras. Thank you. For the audience, thank you so much for listening in. It's a relatively long session with a lot of details to keep up with. If you have questions, please do type them in. In the meanwhile, I can perhaps start. We heard some very interesting aspects of the energy communities, from regulatory to financing to sort of how local initiatives have been engaged into the energy transition, and the sort of how to set up local energy markets. So my first question is citizen engagement. That's been a challenge that I think we're all very familiar with and all struggle with quite a lot. How have you tackled this within your projects?
I can start. I briefly mentioned on my presentation that we showed them some benefits that they can have by associating as an energy community. But the main aspect of engagement in this specific community is that we are leveraging in something that we did in the past. For instance, the PV panels was installed by us in another project before POCITYF. So we have a relationship with them for, I don't know, 8, 9 years. So that we are building that, and that's why we can test that, and they are very keen to comply with everything that we say to them. But of course, since day one, we must deliver what we promised, and we are trying to do that. And in this case, we are achieving. And so, in the sense, they have confidence on us to propose things and to do things in the community.
Thank you. Any other?
I can say something about that. Well, listening to the different projects, I think, and also reflecting on our own project, engaging citizens is of course a challenge, especially if you in our project have to start from scratch and the people that are going to be in that community are not there yet. But listening to the project, I think we first need to go back onto what is an energy community, because I think many of the projects being presented here are either presented by maybe a supplier or a DSO, or there are projects that really focusing on producing electricity with PV panels, but it's not necessarily a community. Because to be defined as a community, as it is defined by the directive, there need to be effective control by the members of that community. So, and it needs to be owned, and they need to have some sort of ownership in that community, whether or not that's by lease or by other types of thing. But the effective control should be with the households, because they're particularly focused on households and maybe small businesses that are part of that community. So I think before we talk about, we're going to start here an energy community, we should reflect on the governance side of the energy community, because a lot of the projects presented here might not even be an energy community. They're just a scheme for energy, for solar panels, which is fine too. But yeah, I wanted to point that out, that some of them might not be energy communities.
Thank you, Eva. Min?
I agree with you completely, Eva. And one question we have to meet here is who owns the buildings. So we're intervening in the city district, right? And we are dealing with heat supply and building energy supply. So how is the ownership structure in each region? And in Germany, there's a very low ratio of individual ownership of buildings. So most of the people are here living as renters. And so I myself, I don't own my flat. So everything that has to do with energy supply or equipment for the building technology is being decided by the owner of it or by the administration company that does it. So that's that we have to consider. But on the other hand, it depends on the project, and it depends also on how the culture of knowledge development is set in each region. So, for example, in Germany, if I would go from the start to the neighbors and telling them what we are going to do, they wouldn't understand it first because it's quite technical. And also the other thing is, if they are interested, we want to move forward. So this kind of co-creation is rather a hindrance to be in time with the project. So, but on the other hand, what should we show them? How should we involve them? I think the best way to involve them is to have the proof of concept first. Then you show them and involve them, but intensely during the phase of replication and scaling. Because then we need someone who spread the message. And then we should invest our time there because we can show something. We can tell them, like the video that I showed you is quite impressive if you can see that, for example. And at the start, you haven't had it. So I just ordered this material 2 months ago. And so we haven't have that at the start of the project even. But you need like to have an understanding. So I, as a project manager myself, I need an understanding of what the internal dynamic of the project is, and to develop this. So not only following the grant agreement, right? It doesn't work in my area. So this is my plan is now, okay, I have set up this economic, how the feasibility study. This was very, very important because now I can go to the neighborhood that is similar to site A, to site B here. So detached family houses, etc., because they own the houses. They own also the property, maybe, because if we have to dig for geothermal systems, you also have to access the ground. So it's not only owning a flat within a multi-story building, so you can own a flat there, but you can't intervene into the ground. So you need like this kind of setup. And then for Dresden, like I said, 2/3 of the city is not connected to the district heating network. So we have like a large area that we can work on now with this kind of proof of concept. And maybe in the end, they will choose this for their own house, but not for their neighborhood or for the district or whatever. So it's still an individual decision to move on, but they can use the concept still, and it still contributes to climate neutral development of the city. So I think one must be flexible, but of course I have to follow the grant agreement that is going to look at a district scheme. And we have to decide and be flexible what is realistic in our area, what is realistic in the legal framework we're working in and we're living in, and we have to comply with. For example, also financing scheme. We haven't. There was no financing scheme for site B, for this kind of energy system retrofitting and new builds as well. So we have a lot of stuff going on there, and it was very, very difficult and challenging for the owner to get the public funding. Also because maybe you know already that the public funds in Germany and in Europe in general, I think, are very, very narrow currently. So we also need to be lucky to find the public funding scheme to finance it. So going back to what can we tell the citizens, we can tell them our story. But if I don't have a story to tell, how can I attract them into the story? And this is what is maybe in Germany, it's another thing that maybe in Sweden or in Nordic countries in general, because the ownership structure, the legal and also the practical kind of how to live ownership is another culture than in Germany. So we always have to look more or less like a social scientist. What can I do in this kind of social cultural setup?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Min. I think you bring up some very interesting points, and one of the points that I would like to build on a little bit is a big value added from our projects is actually establishing a lot of benchmarks, whether they be in financing, whether they be in proof of concepts of technologies, but also new ways of engagement as well as with the stakeholders. I have, I'll take a look around. Do we have any questions from the audience?
Before, or if you let me jump in.
Please.
Actually, I think that this point that Eva and Min have raised is very interesting. This sort of top-down or bottom-up kind of approach to energy communities. So it would be also nice to hear from the other participants if we don't have any questions to understand a little bit, what our participants as well think about this. If you're working actively on building an energy communities, if you would like also to share your experience, your opinion also on these two different approaches, no? If there are no questions, and I guess that if you join today, you're interested in energy communities, so feel free to switch on your camera and your microphone, and also and share with us also your opinions on this.
Absolutely.
I want to have a quick comment on what Eva said, which, by the way, I completely agree also. And that's something that I didn't say on my presentation, but everything that is doing right now was authorized by the members. I am the manager because they let me be the member, the manager. We are testing the platforms to comply with the grant agreement of the project because they allow us to test the platforms. The PV systems that we installed in the past are now theirs. They are the owner of the PV. They will be the owner of the batteries after the project ends. So in the sense, everything is owned by them. And the regulation that's approved that I sent to the Portuguese granting entity of energy communities was approved by them. All the articles of the regulation were discussed and approved by them. So I'm only managing the community on my side because I know 2 or 3 things about the topic, and because they let me do it, and that's why we will educate them for they to manage the community after we leave them by the end of the project.
Thank you, Roberto. Adam, would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, I was just wondering if this is across the board to everyone really that's presented. And thank you very much, by the way, for the great presentations. Do any of you think that there was a partner missing? Was there a key stakeholder that you think it would have been beneficial to have on board? And if so, who were they? And were you able to get them on board at some point?
Can I answer to that for the Atelier project? Since we had so many issues with congestion, it would have been very nice if the local public grid operator, like the DSO, would have been part of the project. That would have really helped, because now we got just this contract with a limitation, but in the project we also discussed maybe we could have contributed to congestion management, which is another league, which is more market activity, but it was not offered to us and we didn't get it. And maybe if they would have been in this innovation project with us together, they might have taken on that challenge. So for us, especially the system operators are very important stakeholders to have in the project.
Wojciech, perhaps you have a comment on your side?
Yeah, actually, well, from my experience, there are two options when it comes to Ascent project. There is the option that we have a kind of strong player who is, as we say, orchestrator. And this is the city development company, which is the kind of a hub between the municipal institutions and all the other stakeholders that are interested in this new district to be built. So that's the one option. And the another one is that you just find some opinion leaders in the already functioning communities so that they somehow, using a snowball method, galvanize the others to get into the energy community. But yeah, what is maybe really fascinating about the Czech Republic, that people living just at the same address in the multi-family houses and so on are quite often unable to strike any agreement on energy because they don't really share the same opinions and so on about climate and so on and so on. So what we are experiencing is that finding these opinion leaders goes much smoother when we go to some interest-based communities, like, I don't know, people who have a common community garden or something like this, better than the same building.
Thank you. I'm looking at the time. We're pretty close to our finish line. And would anyone else have any comments on what Adam just mentioned?
There is also a question in the chat.
All right.
If we have time to address it.
Yes, okay, we can take it very quickly. Juanita's question is how you will address the need for expertise or experts in energy community, reflecting on scalability. Seems like the technical knowledge and the time required does not always fit the need of residents. Any comments on that?
Maybe I can reflect on that.
Please.
Well, actually, we as universities try to disseminate any knowledge that we have about this topic, but actually, yeah, for sure, we are too small to get the professional support for all the market emerging around energy communities in Czechia. But actually, we try to provide some methodical documents to regulatory offices, and then the regulatory offices somehow disseminate it to municipalities, to companies. Because there is also a big expectation in Czechia that the solution providers are somehow verified / authenticated / certified by the trustworthy state institutions. So yeah, most probably this skill will diffuse among the companies, but yeah, of course there is this gap, and we as like public institutions try to support the emergence of these knowledge-based companies who provide reliable solutions for communities.
Thank you so much. I think it's time to conclude the session. Unfortunately, we can continue this discussion, of course, for a long time. It's a lot of interesting topics. Stefania, I would hand it over to you to say some concluding words. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar. Well, thank you so much, Omar, for the wonderful moderation. I think that we have touched upon many different aspects as it was foreseen, and also there are some open streams for discussion. So hopefully we will have another session. I want to thank so much all our speakers for being here and for your contribution and sharing your lessons learned and your challenges as well from very different contexts. And thanks to all the participants for being here. We will make sure also to share the presentation and the recording as well. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Bye-bye.
a nice day.
Goodbye.
And thank you, Stefania, as well, for all the excellent arrangements.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye,
I left the
everyone.
contact in chat. If you have questions, you can reach out.
Fantastic. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Wojciech.
Okay.
Thank
Great.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.